This video is on tax audit report which is filed in Form 3CA 3CD or in Form 3CB 3CD. Form 3CA 3CD is applicable in case of tax audit of those taxpayers who are required to get their accounts audited by or under any law other than Income Tax Act, for example, companies. And Form 3CB 3CD is applicable in case of a person who is not required to get its accounts audited by or under any law other than Income Tax Act. Now let us first look at who can use the tax audit report. The tax audit report can be used by those chartered accountants who are registered on the e-filing portal and one who has been assigned the form by the taxpayer. The prerequisites for filing the form on the online portal are that the taxpayer and chartered accountant should be registered on the e-filing portal. Both of them should have valid username and password. They should have an active PAN, and the taxpayer should assign the form either 3CA 3CD or 3CB 3CD to the chartered accountant, and both of them should have active digital signature certificates. Now let us look at the forms at a glance. Form 3CA 3CB 3CD has two sections. The first part is Form 3CA or 3CB and the second part is Form 3CD. The first page lets you navigate through Form 3CA or 3CB and Form 3CD. In Form 3CA 3CB, the chartered accountant enters audit report under Section 44AB of the accounts of the business or profession of the taxpayer. The user has to first fill in the details in the Form 3CA or 3CB to proceed further to Form 3CD. In Form 3CD, chartered accountant enters the particulars to be furnished under Section 44AB of the Income Tax Act. Form 3CD is further divided into two parts. Part A has clauses 1 to 8A, which requires the chartered accountant to furnish the basic details of the taxpayer. The user can move ahead only once Part A of the form has been filled and saved. In Part B of Form 3CD, there are clauses 9 to 44. Particulars of all the clauses are required to be filled in here. Now let us see how do we access and submit the Form 3CA or 3CB 3CD. The taxpayer has to assign the form to the chartered accountant, and then the taxpayer has to accept the submitted form through the online mode. The chartered accountant, however, is required to fill the form through offline utility only. Now first, let us look at step 1, how the taxpayer will assign the form to a chartered accountant. In order to assign the form to chartered accountant, the taxpayer has to first log in to the e-filing portal using its user ID and password. Post login on the dashboard, the taxpayer has to click on e-file and in that further click on income tax forms and then file income tax forms. On the file income tax forms page, the taxpayer is required to select the relevant form, Form 3CA 3CD or Form 3CB 3CD as is applicable, and then click on file now. Alternatively, the taxpayer can also enter the form details in the search box to file the form. Now, the taxpayer is required to select the filing type and assessment year. Then, the taxpayer is required to assign the chartered accountant, attach the supporting documents, and then click on the continue button. If the chartered accountant is assigned by the taxpayer already, details of the form pending with chartered accountant for filing or acceptance will be displayed. If chartered accountant is not assigned, the taxpayer can assign a chartered accountant by choosing from the existing list of previously assigned chartered accountants. In case there are no CA added, you can add a chartered accountant by clicking Authorize Partner on Dashboard. So on the dashboard, click on Authorize Partners, go to My CA and then add New CA. On assignment of chartered accountant, a success message is displayed along with a transaction ID. The taxpayer is requested to keep a note of the transaction ID for future reference. Once the form has been assigned by the taxpayer, the step 2 is filing the form by chartered accountant. Now the chartered accountant is required to log in to the e-filing portal using the login credentials and then click on Pending Actions tab and then move to Work List where list of pending items is displayed. Under For Your Actions tab, the chartered accountant can accept against the Form 3CA or Form 3CB CD which has been assigned by the taxpayer. In case the chartered accountant chooses to reject the request, the chartered accountant will have to provide the reason for the rejection of the service request. On acceptance by chartered accountant, a success message is displayed along with the transaction ID. The chartered accountant is advised to keep a note of the transaction ID for future reference and then click on Back to Work List. On the Chartered Accountant login, under the Pending for Filing tab, the Chartered Accountant is advised to click Upload Form against Form 3CA, 3CD or Form 3CB, 3CD as applicable, and then click on the Continue button. Now the Chartered Accountant can see the income tax form 3CA, 3CD or 3CB, 3CD as applicable. The Chartered Accountant is advised to download the offline utility, fill the form using the utility and create a JSON file. Then the Chartered Accountant can upload the JSON file created using the offline utility, attach necessary supporting documents and click on Submit button. The Chartered Accountant can also add unique identification number if applicable and then click on Proceed. However, presently you will notice that the UDIN box is grayed out as the feature will be enabled shortly. You may still go ahead and file the form by selecting I do not have UDIN, I will update later. Once the UDIN feature will be made available for all the forms, you can update the same in the portal. If you select Proceed, you will be taken to the E-Verify page where you can verify using digital signature certificates. You can also refer to How to E-Verify user manual for learning more. Once e-verification is completed, a success message of submission by CA is displayed along with the transaction ID. The Chartered Accountant is requested to keep a note of the transaction ID for future reference. The taxpayer will now receive a confirmation message on email ID and mobile number registered with the e-filing portal. The taxpayer is now required to accept the form which has been submitted by the Chartered Accountant. So the taxpayer will have to again log into the e-filing portal using the user ID and password, and on the taxpayer's dashboard you can again click on pending actions and go to the work list. On the taxpayer's work list, under the pending for acceptance, the taxpayer is requested to click on Accept against Form 3CA, 3CD or Form 3CB, 3CD which has been uploaded by the Chartered Accountant. If the taxpayer chooses to reject the request, you will have to provide the reason for the rejection of the service request. Once the taxpayer accepts the request, the taxpayer will be taken to the E-Verify page where it can verify using digital signature certificate. On successful submission, the taxpayer would be getting a transaction ID and acknowledgement receipt number. The taxpayer will also receive a confirmation message on the email and mobile number registered on the e-filing portal. Now let us see some do's and don'ts to avoid errors in form filing and verification. Kindly ensure to use the latest version of the utility for generating the JSON. Ensure that the PAN of the taxpayer, assessment year, CA membership number and form filing type are correctly entered in the utility and selected on the portal. You are advised to install the latest EM Signer application in your system, log in the DSC token, and also ensure that the profile and contact details are updated in taxpayer and CA login. Also check local host eMudra is not blacklisted by the system admin and eMudra token driver is updated. For further details, you can always connect with us by visiting our website www.incometax.gov.in, or you can contact us on our helpline numbers.